Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Darkness of Moria Battle Company solo campaign, Kickboxing Thumb War. The scenario we are playing today is called Stand Your Ground, and the whole objective in this battle is to control the Dwarven steppes. Karna is facing the last alliance and Cirith Ungol is facing the Osgiliath warband. If you remember from the last episode, the giant spider got promoted to a hero and is called Murphus after Luke Murphy on YouTube. Thank you for commenting on my videos. Now let's get into the battle reports. Before we do that, however, a quick reminder, if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, that would be very nice of you indeed. The money that I get from that site will go directly into the hobby and the channel, and I'm currently trying to get enough money to buy a new microphone to get some better audio for you guys. Alright, so deployment is done for both sides. In the middle we have Osgiliath, of course, who will be defending in this scenario. Doritor, Michaelir, Tylero and Malarsian are ready to receive their adversaries. The orcs have split into two groups, one over here with Joshok leading them with two shield orcs with shield in front to support from enemy fire, and the new hero spider Murphus is over here behind this hill, and we have Krishla and Jonner with two of their friends from the other side trying to negate the shield wall from Osgiliath. Now let's get into priority turn 1. And Osgiliath, they get a 6 and Cirith Ungol gets a 1. So let's get into the move phase. Alright, so that is movement done for both sides. We have Michaelir, Doritor and a friend who have made a shield wall over here. Malarsian kept his position anticipating the spider's movement, and we have Tylero over on this side with a friend and the two other rangers over there trying to help them out. And the orcs, of course, moved full distance as fast as they could. They have to close the distance after all, as they are outgunned. Now let's get into the shoot phase. By the way, I would like to mention that Malarsian over here and Jonner over there have all the battle wounds. I rolled for them off camera and they are good to go. So let's get into the shooting phase, starting with Malarsian. He will fire at the giant spider as he sees that as the biggest threat. Now he needs a 3-up to hit, and he hits. There are no in the way because of the elevation. You can make an argument for the bottom of the stairs, but I have checked and there is no in the way. So a strength of 2 against a defense of 3, so 5s to wound the spider and no dice. But he will use his might early this time, making it into a 5, causing a wound on the spider. The spider has a point of fate. Can he save himself? Yes, he does. Next we have these two rangers who will fire into this squad of 4, and starting with the first one needing a 4-up to hit because he moved, he misses, and the second one misses as well. Priority for the next turn goes to Osgiliath once again. One more thing about the scenario. I'm not in my game today, it seems, but the scenario will end when one force is reduced to 25%. That will end immediately when that happens, at the end of the turn. As for movement, these 3 warriors or heroes and a warrior moved a little bit back to negate the orc charge to have another round before the battle begins. Tylero and his friend shifted positions with Malarsian to tank the spider, as Malarsian is a soft target. They will try to fend off the spider for him. And over here, the 3 rangers are facing down these orcs. They will have to try to thin them out, or it will be a hard fight for sure. Now, let's get into the shoot phase. Malarsian firing at Jonner, and at point blank range at that. He needs 3-up because he has a special rule that makes him able to move and shoot without penalty. He needs a 3-up, he gets a 4, and that's a hit. Against a defense of 4, he needs 5 to wound Jonner, and he gets the 6. Jonner will need to save this with his fate, and he saves. The other rangers will target Jonner as well, trying to cut the head of the snake, needing 3-up to hit because they stood still, and they get double 1s. We're back in business, boys. Going into the fight phase, we have only one fight this turn, and that is Murphys against a warrior of Minas Tirith. And the warrior will be shielding, realizing that he is in immediate danger, and gets 1 and a 2. And Murphys gets a 4, winning the fight. Murphys will need 5s to wound, even though he has a strength of 5, the warrior of Minas Tirith has a defense of 6. So 5s to wound, can you do this? No! Priority for the next turn goes to... oh, double ones once again. So it goes to Cirith Ungol this time. Alright, so the orcs outnumbered their opponent and got into fights with every one of the enemy. And they could not move, of course, because they now are locked in combat. And we have some interesting fights, Murphys against Tylero, and some other good ones as well. Jonner wants to pay back the favor of Malarsian, bringing a friend into combat with him. So let's get into the fight phase. Alright, starting with Krishla on the edge there against a ranger, and Krishla sets the bar and gets a 1, and the ranger gets a 2. Alright, so this is kind of interesting because Krishla has 2 points of might. He can use both of them to win the fight as they have equal fight value. But he will try to tank this. He still has a point of fate, using none of his might, saving them for later. So let's see what comes out of this combat when the ranger strikes. Needing 5s to wound Krishla, getting the 6, incredible! Fate roll for Krishla, can you make this? Yes, you do, you save yourself. Next we have an Uruk with a 200 weapon against a ranger, and the Uruk will set the bar, getting a 5, and the ranger gets a 3. The 5, of course, is turned down to a 4, but he wins either way. The orc has a strength of 4 against the ranger's defense of 4, so he will need 4s, but because of his two-handed weapon he will need 3s, so this is a high chance of a kill, and he gets it. The ranger is slain. Next we have Malarsian against Jonner and a friend, and Malarsian sets the bar. He gets a 5, strong start. Jonner gets a 1, and his friend gets a 2. But Jonner has parry, I believe, yes, so that he can force Malarsian to re-roll. Let's see what he gets, and he gets a 3, so he still wins the fight. Striking at Jonner, needing a 5 to wound, and he gets the 6. And I'm sorry, Jonner, you are out of fate, so you are slain. Next we have an Uruk-hai with two-handed weapon against a warrior with spear and shield, and the Uruk-hai gets a 1, and the Minas Tirith one gets a 5. Needing 5s to kill, and gets the 6, slaying the Uruk-hai. Next we have 2 orcs against Doritor, and Doritor sets the bar. He gets a 2, and the 2 orcs gets a 5. They need 6s to wound, and they get nothing. Next, Michaelir is facing down an orc, and Michaelir gets a 6, and the orc gets a 5, but no matter, because he has lower fights anyway. Michaelir will need 5s to kill the orc, and he gets a 4, but uses a point of might, turning that into a 5, slaying the orc. Next we have Joshok against a warrior of Minas Tirith, and Joshok sets the bar, getting a 6, and Minas Tirith guy gets a 2. Needing 5s to kill because of his strength of 4, can he do it? No, but he will use a point of might, turning that into a 5, slaying the warrior. Lastly, we have Tylero against Murphys, and Tylero will be shielding because he's facing 2 attacks. And he gets a 3, and the giant spider gets a 5. The spider needs 5s to wound and gets 1 and 2, so nothing. Priority for the next turn goes to Cirith Ungol. Cirith Ungol still outnumber Osgiliath by 1 model, even though they have taken more casualties than they have. So the fights are a little bit different this time. We have some interesting ones. Krishla is going to try to take on the other ranger, and once again Tylero is fighting Murphys. So let's get into the fight phase. Starting with Krishla against the ranger, and Krishla will set the bar. He gets a 1, and the ranger gets a 6. Needing 5s to wound Krishla, and getting a 3. Next we have Malarsian against 2 orcs, and Malarsian will set the bar. He gets a 5, and the Uruk with two-handed weapon gets a 4, and the other orc gets a 5 as well. But how is that with fight value? It's the same actually. They have the same fight value, so we have to roll off. 4 to 6 goes to good. And it does. Can Malarzian secure another kill? He will need 5 to do so. And he gets the 6, slaying the Urukai. Next we have a 2-on-2 over here, and the orcs will start setting the bar, getting double 5s, and the good warriors gets 5 as well, but the fight value is equal, so we have to roll off. 1 to 3 goes to evil, and it goes to evil. Needing 6s to wound, getting nothing. Joshok against the warrior of Minas Tirith, and Joshok gets a 4, and the warrior gets a 2. Needing 5s to kill, and gets the 5. Oh, it's not a warrior, it's actually Michael Ear. And he has a point of fate. Can he save himself? Yes, he does. Tylero against Murphus, and Tylero will be shielding once again and gets 1 and a 2. And the spider gets a 5. Needing 5s to wound, and gets the 6. 1 wound on Tylero, but he has a point of fate and will use that, and he saves. Priority for the next turn goes to Cirith Ungol once again. Alright, so the fights this turn will be almost the same as last round, but Murphus has had enough of Tylero's tough skin, going for juicier meats in the back with this ranger. And this orc with spear went to combat with Tylero to try to take him out. But we will see how it goes in the fight phase. Starting with the ranger and Murphus, and the ranger will set the bar, getting a 6, and that is important. And the spider gets double 5s, and that is not enough, and he does not have any might, so he loses the fight. Needing 4s to wound the spider, as it has only a defense of 3, and no, not good enough. Next we have Krishla against Malarzian, and Krishla sets the bar, getting a 2, and Malarzian gets a 6. Needing 5s to wound Krishla, and gets the 5. Sadly, Krishla is out of fate, so he is slain. Next we have Tylero against an orc, and Tylero sets the bar, he gets a 5, and the orc needs a 6 here, and he gets a 1. 5s to slay the orc, and he gets the 5. Next we have Joshok against Michael Ear, and Joshok sets the bar, getting a 2, Michael Ear gets a 2 as well. And that means that Joshok wins on fight value. Joshok will need 5s to wound, gets the 5, and Michael Ear has used his fate, I believe. He has, and that means that he is slain. Lastly, we have Doritor and a friend against 2 orcs, and the orcs will set the bar, getting a 5 and a 4, and Doritor gets a 3, and his friend gets a 2. The orcs will need 6s to wound, and they get 1 6. Fate roll for Doritor, and he fails and is slain. Alright, so this fight is getting interesting. The Cirith Ungol warband is halved and have to start taking courage checks, but Osgiliath has lost 4 as well, but not quite halved, or they have to lose 1 more to start taking tests. So it's important who gets this roll off. Let's start with Osgiliath. They get a 6, and Cirith Ungol gets a 1. Alright, so the strategy for Osgiliath is this. They have got into combat with the 2 enemy heroes, which means that they don't have to take courage checks, but the 2 other warriors have to. So let's see how this plays out. Let's start with the orc that has a shield. He will need, I believe, a 7 to pass, and he gets a 10, so he's good, and he is good. And the other one needs a 7 as well, double 1, so he flees. I should of course have moved the orc before I rolled the courage check on his friend, but there you have it. Even though Osgiliath has the upper hand, nothing is written in stone just yet. Let's start with Murphus against a ranger and a friend. And Murphus will set the bar. He gets a 4, the ranger gets a 3, and the other Minas Tirith warrior gets a 4, which means I believe that Minas or Osgiliath wins this fight. 2 seconds, I have to check fight value. The spider only has a fight of 2, unfortunately, so he's pushed back and the enemy can make strikes. Let's start with the ranger, needing a 4 up to wound, and he gets a 5, wounding the spider, which means he has only 1 wound left, and the other Minas Tirith warrior will do the same, needing 4s, and gets the 5. So the spider is slain. Murphus, I'm sorry. Next we have Tylero against an Orc, and the Orc sets the bar, getting a 2, Tylero gets a 4. Tylero will need 5s to wound, and he gets a 1. Next we have Malarsian against Joshok, and Malarsian sets the bar, he gets a 4, Joshok gets a 3. No points in saving might at this point, so Joshok will use his might point, turning that into a 4. He has a higher fights of 5, so he will win the fights. Needing 4s to kill Malarsian, and gets a 2. At this point, the Orcs have been reduced to below 25% of their starting numbers, which means that Osgiliath wins this combat, or wins this scenario. Congratulations to you. And Malarsian, what a beast of a hero, killing many enemies. Now, let's get into the next battle. Alright, so let's get into the next battle. The last alliance will be the attacker, and the Karna warband will be the defenders. The last alliance have deployed Simonir and another archer on top over here to try to thin out the enemy before the main force arrive. Now, they have only 5 warriors over here and are below on points, so they will get an extra elf with spear and shield and an extra man with shield to make up for the points difference. They are still below in points, but now they are more equal. So let's get into priority for the first turn. The red die will be Karna, and they get a 2, and the last lines will get a 3. Alright, so the forces have moved, and not surprisingly, the last alliance have moved at full speed towards the Dwarven steppes, and the Karna warband has set up a defensive perimeter on top of the final step. And Jacksonel, which is the archer, has moved over here to support their other archers with his free heroic shoot that he can do each turn. So by doing that, he will negate the priority from the last alliance, who has these 2 archers over here, which means that he and his friends will be able to shoot first. So let's get into the shoot phase. Starting with Jacksonel, he will fire into Simonir over here, and he will need a 4 up to hit because he moved, and he gets a 5, so he hits. 6s to wound, and he gets a 3. This archer over here will fire at Simonir as well. He will need 5s because he moved, and he gets a 1. And lastly, we have this archer over here also firing at Simonir, needing a 4 up to hit because he stood still, and he hits. Now he will need 6s once again to try to wound, and he gets the 6. Fate roll for Simonir, and he gets a 6, saving himself. Alright, so Simonir will fire back at Jacksonel, needing a 3 up to hit because he stood still, and he gets a 2. And he has a 3 point of might that he can use every turn, so he will use that to get a 3, which means that he hits, and he has a strength of 3 on his bow. And Jacksonel has only a defense of 3, which means he will need 4s to wound Jacksonel, and he gets the 4. Fate roll for Jacksonel, and he fails. But Jacksonel has an additional point of fate, so he will use that now, and he fails again! Oh no! He's killed off! The other man with bow will fire at the other warrior of Karna over here, and he needs a 4 up to hit, and he misses. Priority for the next turn goes to Karna. Alright, so Karna is rolling the die, trying to move a little bit away so they don't get into close combat this turn, and having one more round of shooting may prove useful, but the enemy shooting, or the last alliance shooting, is stronger overall, so we'll just see how this plays out. Let's get into the shoot phase. The first archer will fire into Simonir once again, needing a 4 up to hit, and he misses. The second one will do the same, and he hits. Now, he will need 6s to wound Simonir, and he gets a 1, but he has poisoned arrows, so he can reroll this, and gets a 3. Simonir will fire back at the archer in the front over here, needing a 3 up to hit, and he misses, but he will use his 3 points of might, turning that into a 3, and he will need a 5 to kill. And he gets a 3, so no wound. The man will fire at the same target, and he needs 4s. He hits, and a strength of 2, so he will need 5s, and no. Priority for the next turn goes to the last alliance. Alright, so we're into the fighting stages of the game. Both armies have clashed together in the middle, and the last archer over there went into combat to negate the enemy shooting. They cannot fire at him. So let's get into the fight phase. I believe this is going to be really exciting because the Last Alliance has the defense value, but the warband of Karna has the number of attacks. They are more aggressive glass cannons. So let's see how this plays out in the fight phase. First, we have Jeremiah on the left-hand side and a friend against 2 men of Numenor. And Jeremiah will set a bar. He gets a 4 and his friend gets a 2. Now, the men of Numenor, what do they get? The shield gets a 2 and the other one gets a 6. That was not the start that Karna wanted. And the men of Numenor will need 4 to wound because they have a strength of 4. And they get a 4 and a 6. And Jeremiah has only 1 fate, so unfortunately he is slain. Next we have a man and an elf against Stuartlim and a friend, and the Last Alliance gets a 3, and Stuartlim, who has 3 attacks, gets a 6, winning the fight. Alright, so once again I forgot to take the courage test to charge Jeremiah, but I will do that now. The men will need 6 or more to pass, and they get a 7, so that's fine. And also, to be fair, I forgot that Jeremiah has the Blade Master, which means that he can reroll a single dual roll. So he will need a 6 on this die to be able to do something, and he gets a 1. So the result would be the same as it became. Alright, so back to Stuartlim and his friend. They are going to make strikes at the man of Numenor. Sorry for this back and forth, but I think it's important to remember all the rules to the fight being fair. Okay, so Stuartlim will try to wound the man, and he needs 5s on 3 dice, and he gets 2 5s, slaying the man. Next we have Kar'Zanil against 2 Haradrim warriors, and Kar'Zanil will be shielding as he is outmanned. So he will be shielding, as I said. He gets a 5, and the 2 warriors of Karna gets 2. Next we have Luisan against the warrior of Karna, and the warrior gets a 3. Luisan, using his 2-handed, gets a 5, which is turned down to a 4, but he wins the fight. Needing 4s to wound, and he gets the 4. The warrior is slain. And the last fight, the Numenorean with shield will set the bar, and he gets a 2, and the warrior of Karna gets a 1. The man will need 4s to kill, and he gets the 4. The warrior is slain. Priority for the next turn goes to Karna. There has been a lot of kills early in this game, and Simonir and his friend are now facing the reality. They have to support their comrades in close combat. They cannot stand on top of this hill because they will not have any valid targets. So let's get into the fight phase, starting with 2 Numenorians against 2 warriors of Karna on the left hand side. Karna will set the bar, and they get a 4, and the Numenorians, they get a 5. They need 4s to kill, and they get nothing. Stuartlim against Kar'Zanil and a friend with spear and shield. Now Stuartlim has 3 attacks, and he will strike first. He gets a 5. Kar'Zanil gets a 3, and the elf gets a 4. So Stuartlim will win. Kar'Zanil has a point of might, and he will use that to force Stuartlim to use a point for himself. He could do a 50-50 roll-off and take his chances, but I think he will just use the might point to win. So let's get into strikes for Stuartlim. Stuartlim will need 5s to wound, and he gets 1 5, which means Kar'Zanil will need to take a fate check. 4 up to save, and he saves. Next we have Luisan against a warrior of Karna, and Luisan sets the bar, getting a 1, and the warrior of Karna gets a 6. Luisan will have to reroll this. Oh no, he cannot get it, because he cannot get the 6 because of his 2-handed weapon, so he loses the fight. 5s to wound Luisan, and he gets the 5. Luisan, do you have fate left? Yes, you do. Try to save yourself, and you save. Next we have a man against an archer, and the man gets a 6 and the archer gets a 2. Needing 4s to kill the spearman, and not good enough. Priority for the next turn goes to Karna. Realizing that they are outnumbered, the Karna warband moved to the left to try to get as few into combat from the enemy as possible, holding off Carsonil and Louison with a single warrior. Let's see how this plays out in the fight phase. Starting with the warrior against Louison and Carsonil, and he gets a 3, and I'm thinking that's not good enough. Carsonil getting a 1 and Louison gets a 5, which means they win the fight. Carsonil will strike first, needing force, and he does not get it. And Louison needing force as well because of his 200, and that's not good enough either. And Louison has 2 points of might, and as the game stands right now, he will just use them, so getting the 4, slaying the warrior. Next we have a 2-on-2 over here, and the evil side will set the bar. They get a 6, and that is really strong, and the good side will get a 4, which means they lose. Warriors of Karna will need 5s to kill the man, and they get double 5, slaying him. Stuartlim and a friend against 2 men of Numenor, and Stuartlim will set the bar. He gets a 4 and his friend gets a 3. The Numenorians, they get a 4 as well. And that means that we have a tie. On a roll of 4 to 6 goes to good. And it goes to evil. Stuartlim and his friend will need 5s to kill. Whoa! Getting 3 wounds on the poor guy. Now, this fight is not over. However, the Karna warband is halved and will have to start to take courage checks. But Stuartlim is standing fast. So let's see how this plays out. This is a important priority, and Karna gets a 2, the Last Alliance gets a 6. The Last Alliance went into combat with Stuartlim and 2 of his friends, but this warrior in the back is not in combat by definition, so he will have to take a courage check. Let's see if he stays on the board. A strong 9. He continues to fight. Starting with Stuartlim against Carsonil and a friend, and Stuartlim sets the bar, getting the 6. And Carsonil, can you do something about this? Getting a 3, and the other one gets a 4, losing the fight. Needing 5s to wound Carsonil, getting 1-5. Carsonil is out of fate and has only 1 wound, so he's slain. Louison, Simonir and a friend against a warrior of Karna, and the warrior of Karna will set the bar. He gets a 3, and that is probably not good enough. Louison gets a 5, which is turned down to 4, so they win the fight. Simonir will strike first, needing a 5 to wound. He does not get it. Louison is next, needing a 4 because of his 2-handed weapon, and he gets a 1. And the last elf gets a 3, so not a kill for them. Next we have a bad man against a nice man, and the nice man will get a 5 and the bad man will get a 4. The good man will need, or the nice man will need a 4 to kill, and he gets the 5, slaying the warrior. Alright, so Karna is now down to 33% of their starting numbers, and if they get 1 more casualty, the game will end. But we're not there yet. We have to roll for priority for this turn. Karna gets a 5 and the Last Alliance gets a 2. Stuartlim has a courage of 3 and needs 7 to stand his ground, and he does. He gets a 11. I just realized that the defending player do not have to take courage checks when defending the hill. So my bad, no roll needed. I don't think it made a difference in the last game. No, it didn't. So yeah, no courage test needed. Let's get into movement. Alright, Karna is going on the offensive, going into combat with all of the enemy models. They had to get into combat either way, and this way they could choose their fights. So let's start with this first one over here. 1 man and an elf against an evil man, and the evil man gets a 6, and that is... I have no words. What happened to me? Alright, let's try that again. He gets a 6, and that is really important. The man gets a 5, and the elf gets a 3, which means that the evil man wins the fight. He will strike at the Numenorian. As the Numenorian has a defense of 5, he will need 5s. But if he has had struck at the elf, he would need 6s. So going after the weakest one, needing 5s to kill, and he gets the 6, slaying the man. This battle is not over by any means. Stuartlim against Louison. Stuartlim sets the bar, getting the 6 and Louison cannot do anything about that, so he loses the fight. Louison could re-roll this because of his Blade Master, but as Stuartlim got the 6, he cannot beat him because he uses his two-handed weapon. So Stuartlim will make strikes, needing 5s to wound Louison, getting 2 5s. Louison is out of fate, so he is slain. Alright, so we have reached a critical point in the battle. The warriors of Karna had made a major comeback, and now the last warrior will fight Simonir and the man with bow. Now, if either of the parties kill the other ones, that means that they have won the battle. So let's see what the evil man gets. He needs a high roll here, and he gets a 4. Well, that is good. Simonir, can you beat this? Getting a 2, and the man with bow gets the 1. So now target priority is crucial. The Haradrim man, or the warrior of Karna, will strike at the man with bow, as he has only a defense of 4. He will need 5s to kill. Simonir, I believe, has still fate? No, he does not, and it would be the same. But either way, let's go for the man, and he will need 5s. Can he do it? The game will rest and depend on this. Ooh, he gets the 4. We get another turn. Priority for the next turn goes to Karna. Oh man, this is so exciting. We now have 3 one-on-one fights, and the outcome of each of them can be devastating or dire, or whatever you want to call it. I play this game by myself, and I'm so excited to see what's going to happen. Let's start with the first fight. This fight in the front over here, and the man or the Haradrim warrior gets a 1. No, what a terrible start. And the other one, another 1. Unfortunately for Karna, he has a lower fight value, so he loses the fight. The elf still needs 5s or 6 to kill, and he gets a 1. Next we will take the warriors on the other side, saving Stuartlim and Simonir's battle for last, and the Numenorian man gets a 6. Whoa, that is strong, and the other one gets a 6 as well. Unfortunately, once again, the Karna warrior has a lower fight value, so he loses, even though he rolled a 6. What an epic battle. The man will need 4s to kill, and he gets the 4, and the warrior is slain. But the battle is not finished. Stuartlim against Simonir, and Stuartlim will set the bar. He gets, whoa, he gets 2 6s and a 4. Simonir, what can you do about this? Nothing. Alright, so this is it. If Stuartlim can kill Simonir, the battle will be a draw, and if he survives, the last alliance will win. We'll be rolling 1 die at a time at this time, and Simonir has a defense of 5, Stuartlim has a strength of 3, so he will need 5s to kill him. The first die is a 3, the next one a 3, oh, down to the last die, and gets a 4. And I just had to check this, but he has no might left, unfortunately. So that is it for this battle. The last alliance are victorious. 3 models on the hill to 2 for Karna. What an exciting game. I was just carried away by the intenseness of this battle. Okay, so let's get into the post-battle, and yeah, see you in a sec. Alright, so let's get into the post-battle, starting with injury rolls for Cirith Ungol. And starting from the right, we have warriors over here, the one with spear. He gets a 4 and has to miss the next game. Next we have an Uruk-hai with two-handed weapon. He gets a full recovery. And the one with shield, full recovery, should be protected by the Valar, but not the hero. And the next one gets a 7 full recovery. Now on to the heroes. Let's start with Johnner. Start with Jonar, and he gets an 8, which is a full recovery. And we have Krishna, he gets a 7, which is a full recovery as well. Now, let's get into the spider. Murphys, I just had to look up his name. He gets a 9, which is an old battle wound, and he, or just a scratch, just a scratch, so he can roll again. He gets an 8, which is a full recovery. Alright, so Jonar had an old battle wound, but because of a full recovery, he gets to cure that, so that's nice for him. Let's move on to the next battle company. Injury rolls for Osgiliath, starting with the warriors, the ranger over here. He gets a 9, which is a full recovery. Oop, you are the wrong way, dude. Okay, there we go, you can watch your friends. Alright, the next warrior gets 10, full recovery. Doritor gets an 11. Whoa, and he's a hero, isn't that awesome? That is actually the wounds of a hero, which means he makes a full recovery, and in addition to this, they get D6 extra influence points, and they get 4 extra. Wow, so they got 4 for winning the battle and 4 for this, so they get 8 influence points. Lastly, we have Michaelir, and he gets a 5, which is a leg wound, so he is injured. Moving over to Karna, starting with the warriors over here, and the first one gets a 5 and has to miss the next game. And the next one gets a 6, and that is a full recovery. The spearmans, starting with the one on the right, gets a full recovery. And the next one gets a 7, full recovery. And the last spearman gets a 4 and has to miss the next game. Moving over to the heroes, starting with Jeremiah, he gets 7, full recovery, and Jacksonelle gets a 10, and that is an old battle wound. And last but not least, we have the last alliance, starting with the warriors on the left-hand side, getting an 8, full recovery. And the next warrior gets 7, full recovery. The next one gets 10, full recovery. Next we have Carzonil, and he gets a 7, full recovery. Louison gets an 11. And that is the wounds of a hero once again. So he gets a full recovery and D6 influence points for them, getting additional 4, which means they have a total of 8 from this battle. Alright, so let's get into advancement for Cirith Ungol. The warrior with 200 weapon got enough experience to try to become a hero. On the 6th he will become one, and he does not. Next we have Jonar and Joshua, which both got enough experience to roll, and they are on the path of the warrior. Let's start with Jonar on the right, and he gets a 4, and that is Deadly Strength. The hero gains the Burly special rule. Additionally, the hero may now purchase a 2-handed weapon from the armory, even if they could not previously. Okay, so that can actually be a nice upgrade. Maybe we will have to give him a 2-handed weapon. Joshua is next, and he gets a 6, and that is attack or wound. And that is really nice. Let's see what we will give you. Okay, I think we will give you 1 extra wound because you have such a low defense value, so an extra wound will be nice. Moving over to Osgiliath, starting with this warrior over here. Let's see if you get a promotion, and you get a 4, which means that you become a Osgiliath veteran. That is awesome news. Alright, so next we have Tylero, and you are on the path of the warrior. And nice to get an upgrade as well, long time. Oh, that was a bad roll. Let's do that again. Getting a 10. That is might or will, and we will get you 1 point of might to a total of 2 might. And Malarzian once again got enough experience, and you get a 5. You are on the path of the ranger, attack or wound, and the wounds cannot be more than 2, and you have 2 wounds. So we'll have to get you one more attack to an attack value of 2. Alright, Karna is next, starting with these 2 warriors who can get a promotion. The one with spear gets a 3, and that is nothing. And the one with bow gets a 6, which means he becomes a hero. Lastly, we have Stuartlim on the path of the general, and he gets a 4, and that is lead by example. Friendly models within 6 inches of the hero gets a +1 bonus to their courage. That is actually really nice. Lastly, we have the last lines. Carsonil and 3 of his warriors got enough experience to try to level up. Starting with the warriors, the one with bow on the right, needing a 6 to become a hero. Nope. The next one with shield. Nope. And the last one with shield. Nope. Carsonil will roll on the path of the general once again, and he gets a 9. And that is strength or defense. Can only be improved once. Okay, so you have a defense of 5 with your shield, and you have a strength of 4. I'm tempted to give you strength, my friend. Yep, let's go with strength. Strength of 5 on you. Alright, my friends, let's spend some influence points. Starting with Cirith Ungol, they have 3 influence points. Let's see what they get. And they get a 4, which is turned up to a 5, which is Mordor Uruk-hai with a choice of weaponry. We are going on the offensive and giving you a Uruk-hai with a 2-handed weapon. Next, we have Osgiliath, and they have 10 influence points. So, starting with the first roll, they get a number of them actually. 1 + 1, and that is Warrior of Minas Tirith with shield. Okay, so we'll roll again. Another 3 influence points, getting a 6, and that means that we can roll on the special chart. And they get a 1 and +1, of course, and that is an Osgiliath veteran with choice of weapon. So we will choose an Osgiliath veteran with spear. But we are not done. We have only used 6 and we have 4 remaining. So let's roll again, and that is a 2, which is a warrior of Minas Tirith with shield. Alright, so next we have Karna, and they have 4 influence points, and they will use them now, and gets a 2, and that is, or it's getting into a 3, but a Haradrim warrior with spear. And lastly, we have the last alliance. They have 10 influence points to spend. Starting with the first one, they get a 1 + 1, that is a warrior of Numenor with shield. And the next roll is a 6 high elf warrior with choice of weapon. So I think we will use a spear and shield on that one. And the last roll is a 1, so a warrior of Numenor with shield once again. But I think we will use a point of, or influence point, to turn that into a 3, so we get a warrior of Numenor with spear and shield instead. Alright everybody, that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this battle report. The next one will be a special scenario that I will make myself, so I will be looking forward to that at least. I hope you do too. Okay, so bye from Fox Gaming. We'll see you in the next one.